Um, my fellow people, let's continue where I I left off with these things that I write about, and I ask to share with you, regardless of your view and your opinion, which I respect. From where I left off, let me say this to you. I believe that there is another characteristics of the emperor's circus that I have struggled to understand throughout my life. It is not merely that people are distracted. It is not merely that people are entertained. It is not merely that people have become accustomed to living from spectacle to spectacle, but it is that many amongst us have become so conditioned by illusion that we have unconsciously accepted selective outrage as normal. We have become experts at reacting rather than responding. We have become amateurs in investigating. We have become consumers of narratives without questioning them. We have become poor students of power. We have become passionate defenders of personalities. We have become reluctant examiners of the systems. And I find this deeply troubling. I don't know if it is only troubling me, but for what it's worth, it is deeply troubling me. For how else can one explain a world in which a small number of extraordinary, wealthy, and influential men and women can gather behind closed doors in places such as Baden-Baden in Germany, Zurich in Switzerland, or elsewhere to discuss matters affecting global finance, political influence, strategic interests, and the future direction of societies. And the overwhelming majority of humanity disregard this. I don't I don't get it. And when a few do notice and pay attention to it, they simply shrug their shoulders and continue with their lives as though nothing significant is happening or has happened. How else can one explain a world in which powerful nations may convene in exclusive forums with structures such as the Security Council, the G7, WHO, and other influential assemblies to deliberate on matters affecting the security, economies, and destinies of billions of people? And yet, many among us pay little to no attention. How else can one explain a world in which poor nations continue to surrender their natural resources through unequal relationships? And they're quite excited about them. They get excited about exploitative arrangements. they are comfortable with the historical imbalances, while majority remain silent. How else can one explain a world in which weaker societies continue to suffer wars, continue to suffer occupations, continue to suffer forced removals, continue to suffer sanctions, continue to suffer unjust interventions, and outrage appears only intermediately? It is very selective when it does, and often according to the identity of who's involved. Otherwise, if it's people who do not matter, they can be unalived, and it's normal. Yet, let there be a royal wedding, let there be a celebrity making a foolish decision, let social media manufacture another controversy, let a football icon fail to score, let supporters of Messi or Ronaldo revive their endless argument about who is the GOAT. Let a public figure say something offensive, let another scandal dominate headlines. Suddenly, millions awaken. People are alive and debates are all over. Millions argue, millions analyze, millions defend, millions condemn, millions invest their emotions, millions expect so much outrage, millions expand intellectual energy, millions dedicate hours of their precious and finite existence debating matters that, with the broader struggle for dignity, broader struggle for justice, broader struggle for sovereignty, and broader struggles of genuine self-determination, they contribute very little towards changing the lived conditions of ordinary human beings. This is not to suggest that sports has no value. It is not to suggest that entertainment has no place. It is not to suggest that people should not celebrate joy or creativity or recreation. Human beings need laughter. Human beings need art. Human beings need music. Human beings need celebration. Human beings need moments of relief from suffering. The problem arises when entertainment ceases to be recreation and becomes sedation, when distraction ceases to be temporary and becomes permanent, when spectacle becomes governance, when algorithms become our educators, when trending topics become our historians, when public opinion is shaped not by knowledge, not by investigation, not by critical reflection, but is shaped by whosoever controls the loudest microphone. The emperor understands this. The emperor knows this. The emperor understands that a population perpetually entertained is easier to govern, to control, to manipulate than a population deeply educated and well informed. The emperor understands that the exhausted people seldom organize. The emperor understands that frightened people seldom question authority. The emperor understands that confused people often attack one another while leaving untouched the very systems responsible for their confusion. And perhaps nowhere is this contradiction more painful than here in the motherland, our motherland, called Africa. For Africa remains a continent extraordinarily rich, or should I say wealthy in human talent, wealthy in natural wealth, wealthy in cultural depth and historical significance. Yet, Africa remains home to some of the poorest communities on planet Earth. Africa remains a continent whose resources continue to enrich others. Africa remains a continent whose people continue to search for the promises that generations before them believed had already been won. And this contradiction deserves honest examination, not hatred, not revenge, not scapegoating, not prejudice, not selective memory, but honest examination. For no people can solve a problem they refuse to study. No society can transform itself by entertaining itself into permanent forgetfulness. No generation can liberate itself while refusing to ask difficult questions about power. And may I also add that no emperor, however sophisticated his methods, however modern his language, however diverse his representatives, can forever maintain his circus once the people decide that they would rather understand than merely perform. Should I continue? Or maybe let me pause here so that you do some thinking. And we'll get to part 3 in a minute.